should be in place. The challenge, however, is to have a coherent framework and a coherent strategy to put it in place as quickly as possible.
Ibrahim Saad, what would you like to see the international community do more in this situation? Do you think they've done enough?
Well, it didn't do enough. It was late in its reactions. We're looking forward for the Security Council meeting today to make sure that elements of solution there. One is to protect the civilians, and there are several ways to do that. One of them is no-fly zone, and that should be done as soon as possible and very quickly to prevent Gaddafi from using his air force and preventing Gaddafi from getting planes full with mercenaries from abroad. This is number one. And number two, the assets of Gaddafi family and his subordinate should be frozen immediately. That will not allow them to use these assets to fight the Libyan people. Now, we should have other element, which is to make those people who still are around Gaddafi start think twice of the wisdom to continue. There is no wisdom at all, but at least just to give them the direction that they should defect as soon as possible, and that by declaring that what's taking place in Libya is crimes against humanity, and everyone taking part of that crime should be stand trial for that. I think by doing that, that will make people start defecting more rates than what we've seen so far. Also, the Libyan people now in need for aids. I got reports from Benghazi, from even Tripoli, from every city, that there are very huge shortage in medical supplies, in medicines, even doctors, hospitals. All of that should be the task of the international community to secure borders so these aids can go through, to secure harbors. Libya has 1,200 kilometers on the Mediterranean, and a lot of harbors could be used to receive these aids. So at the moment, we have to help, most urgent, to help protecting the civilians, to help putting Gaddafi's forces in standstill, could not be used to fight against Libyan people. These mercenaries are coming, until now are coming. We have information that neighboring countries still sending mercenaries, and some cargo planes were chartered, and we know that that should be stopped immediately. Otherwise, the blood shed will continue.
Let's turn again to what's happening inside Libya itself. And Jeremy Keenan, I want to put this to you. There's been some talk of the possibility of some form of breakaway government or independent type of government that could end up ruling the eastern part of the country. How likely do you think that is?
I don't think it's very likely. I think Libyans want a unified state. People have always, particularly outsiders, have always emphasized the east and the west in Libya, and that is true. It's a fact of history, and it goes back a long way. But I think the experience that the Libyan people are going through at the moment is such that there's a tremendous force for unification in Italy, not in Italy, in Libya. And I don't really see Libyans themselves wanting to see that happen.
But the government, sorry to interrupt, the government that replaces Gaddafi in Tripoli and the west of the country would surely have to be one that is agreeable with people in the east, given the historical differences between them.
I think those differences are easily overcome. They're differences of history, they're differences in the past, and I think the present experience that people are going through is a huge unifying factor, and a very positive factor, in a sense, in leading to that sort of unification of the country. And I'm very positive on that issue, I hope anyhow.
Ahmed Atiga, what kind of implications would there be of a collapsed state in Libya for Europe? I mean, you were talking about oil supplies, illegal immigration is a major fear for Europeans, particularly in Libya.
Well, let's hope that this Libya will not be a collapsed state going forward after the removal of this regime. I think we have been talking about the elements that ought to be in place to avoid such circumstances from happening. God forbid if it doesn't, then certainly the Libyan people first and foremost will will pay the price for that. But I would not really predict that Libya will be a failed state in a way that will present dangers to its surrounding, be it in the region or Europe. I do want to agree with Mr. Jeremy in saying that the divisive elements that this regime have played out in the last few days, be it the role of the tribes or the division of the country, I think they were used for a purpose. I don't think that the Libyans will be divided in terms of East-West. Libya has always been united. The tribes are a social and a cultural setting, but they will not be a force for division. Libya has tribes just like any other country in this region, but they do not implicate or they should not be looked at as a divisive element in putting a structure going forward. So just to come back to your question, I hope that very quickly the elements of building a state again will be in place to avoid any danger that a failed state in Libya could present.
What about the fears that many in Libya, basically the Gaddafi regime, are saying that a lot of this is coming from groups like Al-Qaeda and Islamist groups, that sort of thing? Is that, I mean, if that's,
no, I think
is there any truth to that?
This was another, of course not. This was an element also that the regime has been using in the last few days to basically provoke fear, be it inside the country or outside. One should not look at the solution as to be either a radical Islamist or another form that is closer to the West. I think this revolution, be it in Libya or in the other countries that we have witnessed, are young people who want freedom, who want change, and who want to forge a new future for them. So and the Libyan people have not also been, and the culture and the society have not been known to be radical Islamists or any other kind of destructive forces in the society. The Libyans want to live freely in a democratic state and have their aspirations achieved.
Jeremy Keenan, I just want to turn back to something that you touched on earlier in the program when you referred to Algerian elements possibly being involved in all of this. How much of a destabilizing influence could that be if that's true?
If this is true, this could be very serious. What I have heard, I should emphasize that there is no evidence for this. These are reports from people in the region, so they are questions which need to be checked out, but they're very serious allegations. These are that Algerian forces, or elements is the word used, assumed to be special forces, are either advising Gaddafi himself or the forces still remaining with him, or even fighting with them. There are reports also of Algeria providing the transport for mercenaries. This morning I heard allegations that these were from Chad, Niger and Zimbabwe. So Algeria may be providing that facility. There are reports of at least one helicopter being seen with an Algerian flag on it. Could be Algerian TV or something, but this needs to be checked out very carefully. And also there is evidence of Algerian diplomats, particularly in Europe, trying to put pressure on the EU not to bring strong measures against Libya. So if we do find there is evidence of the Algerian regime operating in this way, which is highly possible, it's certainly logical in terms of Algeria, the Algerian regime's own interests, this is extremely serious. And this is, these are questions, at the moment I emphasize their allegations, but they do need to be examined and evidence needs to be sought and proven or disproven one way or the other. Because if it's true, it is going to be very serious, not just for Libya, but actually for the wider region as well.
Let's put that to Ibrahim Saad in Washington. Are you concerned about possible outside influences like this?
I am concerned. We got information that yesterday there were 3 planes left in Jamina airport toward Libya, and those 3 planes carrying on them mercenaries. We have information also, and also as as your previous guests have just said, that we have to prove this. But we got information that one of the subordinates of President Deby, his ex-Minister of Defense, taking part in this operation. We got information about some planes has been provided by neighboring country. All this information is very, 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 very bothering us, and they pose a very immediate danger of continuation of supply with mercenaries to Gaddafi regime. I mean, when we receive information from Al-Baida and from Benghazi, they captured so many of those mercenaries, and they came from different countries, from Chad and from Sudan, from Nigeria, from Zimbabwe, from many countries. And this has been to stop immediately, stopped through the pressure of the international community on those countries, and for the no-fly zone, not allowing any plane to be flying over Libya until we get rid of Gaddafi. Now, I would like to emphasize, when we talk about sanctions, we should be very careful that those sanctions will be against Gaddafi and his family, his subordinates, and not against the Libyan people. We should not repeat the mistakes which we done during the blockade after Lockerbie, when Libyan people got suffered and Gaddafi and his
events are
subordinates
certainly
didn't.
moving very fast in Libya, and it will be very interesting to see how all of this does play out. But we are unfortunately out of time. I want to thank all three of our guests for taking part: Jeremy Keenan in London, Ahmed Attiga in Amman, and Ibrahim Sahad in Washington. Gentlemen, many thanks for your time. That's it for this edition of Inside Story. Thanks for watching. Remember, you can email us with your comments and suggestions. Just send them to insidestory@aljazeera.net. Bye for now.
From local traders to international finance, it's commerce that makes the world go round. For global companies and developing markets, communication is the currency, and information is the most valuable commodity. Counting the cost at this time on Al Jazeera.
The Golan Heights, one of the spoils of the 1967 war, home to 20,000 Israelis and source of 1/3 of all Israel's water. But what of the Syrians left behind? With